Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to install CentOS on VMware Workstation or in VMware Workstation. Now, you can use multiple different hypervisors. It doesn't have to be VMware. While that's the most popular one, you could also use Hyper-V. That's built into your Windows operating system. You could also use VirtualBox. That's also free. Both platforms are pretty good. I own a license through my company for VMware Workstation, so it just makes sense that I use it. It just makes my life easier. So go ahead and head over to CentOS.org. Now, by the way, you're probably going to hear me throughout this video say CentOS and CentOS. I'm pretty lazy, so I'll probably say CentOS a lot. Regardless, go ahead and go to downloads. And this is where you can download, there's a couple of different versions of CentOS that you can download. If you click on CentOS Linux, you'll download version 7-2009. Now what you would do is you would want to download one of these versions here. We're going to be downloading x86_64, but we're going to click on CentOS Stream and we're going to download version 9. Version 9 is the newest version, but you could also download version 8 or 7. Now one of the reasons why we're going to be using version 9 in this video series is because version 9 gives a really nice brand new user interface, and so as we go back and forth between the command line and the user interface, you can get a visual representation of what we're looking at. In previous versions, you really didn't have that unless you installed your own UI, and so I really like the fact that in this version, in version 9, for example, when we go through and we look at our file structure, in the command line, you're just going to see a bunch of files listed, whereas in the UI, you can actually get an idea of where you're going and what you're navigating to. Most of the time in Linux, you're going to be using a command line. It's just the preference for most of us. But again, it is a pretty nice UI. So we're going to go ahead and download this version. Now, I've already downloaded it. So if I open up Windows Explorer here and I go to my downloads, you're going to see that I already have it downloaded. It is the latest version, and it does come as an ISO image. So this is the image you're essentially going to boot off of in order to create your virtual machine. Now here's VMware Workstation. Again, you can use VirtualBox, you can use Hyper-V. You'll notice here that the only machine I have is Kali Linux. This is just off of the Kali Linux video if you watch that one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say create a new virtual machine. So we'll go ahead and click that. This is going to ask whether we want typical or custom. We're going to select typical. You could do custom if you wanted to and kind of beef this up, give it more RAM, disk, whatever you really wanted to do. Now I did test this obviously before we went and recorded this. I wanted to make sure that everything was going to work as expected. I don't like surprises when I record a video. So here I already have this selected, but again, you would click browse, you would navigate down to your downloads folder, you would select what you wanted, you would say okay. That's already selected, so we'll say next. Now here's something interesting. So here's where you're going to create a personalized user, if you will, for your CentOS instance, but you're going to have to create it again, so it really doesn't matter. So here we're just going to say CentOS admin, and we're going to say the username is going to be admin, and we'll go ahead and we'll type in our password. Now we're going to have to recreate this again during the actual install process, and that's okay. That's no big deal. For this instance, we're going to call this CentOS-test. That's going to put it in my virtual machine folder in VMware Workstation. Here's where we can select whether we want a multiple disks or just one. I prefer just one. You can select whichever you want. Here's where we can again customize the hardware if we want to. I'm not really interested in doing that, so I'm just going to say finish. Now you'll notice that the checkbox was selected to turn the virtual machine on, and so here now we see that this is booting. Now if you're new to VMware Workstation, you're going to find this section here where it's almost like my mouse pointer disappears inside of the actual boot up process. If you move your mouse pointer to the left or the right, kind of anywhere outside of that boot screen, you should get your mouse pointer back. If you don't, then what you're going to want to do is on your keyboard, just hit Control and Alt, and VMware Workstation will release your mouse pointer so that you can get it back and essentially do what you need to do. Ignore these errors here that are on the screen. These are just simple boot up errors. It's not really going to cause a problem. It's not an issue. It's looking for a few things that it's not finding because it's a new machine, so no big deal. This is going to bring us right into our CentOS setup screen where we're going to select our language and all of our different options and stuff. Now, obviously, I'm in the US, I'm speaking English. I'm going to pick the language that best suits me. Obviously, pick the language that works for you. So we're just going to select English here, and we're going to say continue. Now, some of this may be a little slow as we go through this. I am running this on the same desktop that I'm recording on, so things may get a little choppy, or the machine may not respond as well as you want it to. Now, we're going to pick a root password. So this is going to be for the root user. If you're not familiar with Linux, and I would assume that if you're watching this video, you're probably not that familiar with Linux. The root user is similar to what your domain admin user would be in Windows. It's similar to that local admin user in Windows. This is the root user. This is the one that essentially has, for lack of a better term, God rights to the machine. Now, for me, I've entered in a less than secure password. It's going to ask me to click done twice. Don't miss that. So if I click done here, you'll notice the banner on the bottom. It says click done again. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now we need to create a user. You don't need to do this. I like to. So for the username, we're just going to say admin. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to actually use the same password as our root user. The reason why I do this is because if I don't need anything that is going to require root access, then I would go ahead and I would use a different user. Most of the time in production, like if I'm doing this for an organization or I'm doing this in real life, not a lab, I'm never going to log in with my root user. I'm always going to create a separate admin user. And you'll notice here that I selected make this user an administrator. This is the user that I'm going to use to log in and administer the box. I'm never going to expose my root user. In fact, if I go back a screen, let me just click done here again. Go back into my root user, you'll notice here that I allowed this root user SSH access. In the real world, I would never do that. I would never select this box because I don't want my root user to be able to log in remotely. It should always be another user. Here's where we need to select the disk that we're going to install this on. I'm going to select that 20 gig hard drive that we created. You'll notice that you need to make sure that there's a checkbox. Sometimes you need to click twice here. Go ahead and click done. Now the last thing here, I'm essentially done. I don't really need to do anything else, but I do want to go into this network adapter here and I want to make sure of a few things. Number one, I want to make sure that I have an IP address. This allows me to ensure that this machine, when it boots up, is going to be given an IP address so it can get on the interwebs and do its thing. I can run the updates and all that kind of stuff. This IP address is coming from VMware Workstation. I didn't change anything in VMware Workstation. There's nothing that's different. And so this is fine. The only thing you may want to do is just for your sanity, you may want to give it a DNS name. This is what's going to maybe show up in your home router or something like that. So we'll go ahead and say begin installation. Now this is going to take about 5 or 10 minutes. So what I'll do here is I'll actually pause. I'll end this video and then I'll fade in just kind of some of the basic setup options and things like that as we actually get this going. So I will see you guys in a few minutes. All right, so we're back and you can see that the system is done. We're going to say reboot system, and this is going to hopefully, well, let me click on the right button here. And this is going to reboot our machine into our brand new CentOS machine. So let's just wait for that to boot up. It takes a minute or two. There's nothing we need to click. Just kind of goes through its thing. Really super simple to set up. And what's great about doing these kind of tests is that these make really good machines if you want to test network connectivity, if you want to test, ethical hacking or any, network scans or something like that. They're really great, just very simple, free Linux-based machines that we can use to just test whatever we want. So here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to log in as admin. We're going to type in the password that we set up. We'll go ahead and hit enter, and this is going to drop us into our this is going to go ahead and drop us into our new desktop, our new CentOS desktop. And here we go. So this is going to load a background for us, which, again, if you can click it if you want, you can load some different things down here. You'll notice, let me just say no thanks. You can take the tour of CentOS if you really want to. Those are actually really good for you to go through. But just a couple things. I just want to show you how to navigate through some of this. So if I come up here and I click activities, this is going to kind of load this screen here. So you'll notice that as I click activities, it loads this screen down here. So I can open up Safari if I want to. I can look at my different file structure. We're going to go through some of the file structure and things like that in another video. I can go through the help menu if I want to. I can say show applications. It's going to give me a list of some of the different things that are on this particular machine. I can look at the system monitor and I can go back to the desktop. Now, if you click over here in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to notice this is where the shutdown button is. This is a block, so it doesn't matter which one you click on. It's going to load the entire block for you, so you can look at your machine settings. You can power the machine off. What I want to do here is I just want to show you that I can SSH into the box. We'll end this video and we'll go into the next one where we look at some of the file structure and things like that. I'm going to click on wired and I'm going to go to wired settings. This is going to show me exactly what I have going on, and you can see here that I can also change the background. I can change notifications, the privacy. This is essentially the settings window of my CentOS machine. Here where you see connected, I'm going to click on this little gear wheel here. This is going to come up. It's going to give me my my IP address of 192.168.71.131. So let me bring PuTTY in here. Just bring that into the another window here. So we'll say 192.168.71.131, and I should be able to, let me just bring this in here. I do get an accepting window for the certificate, so we'll go ahead and say accept. We'll log in here just for now as my admin user, so we'll say let me in. Now, I did make this an admin user, so I should be able to escalate my privilege. I'll kind of go a little bit through what that is a little bit later on, and it's going to ask me for the password. I'm going to go ahead and enter in the admin password, and now my privilege has been officially escalated. So now at this point, I should be able to run some different commands, and I should be able to do essentially whatever I want to do. But again, what's interesting is, you know, if I'm used to the Linux command structure, I can use that in here. If I'm really lazy, which I personally am, I can go through and I can start administering everything that I want to do through the UI, which is really nice about this operating system. So hope you guys will follow this along. Hope you guys will enjoy labbing this stuff up, and I'll see you guys in the next video.